Clemson is still king of the hill, but is it time for the Noles to challenge their throne? Clemson's first game loss to Duke left many questions about the state of the program, the biggest of which seemed to be whether Dabo had really given up control of the offense to new offensive coordinator Garret Riley, who led an explosive TCU offense to the national championship last year. Most Clemson insiders seemed to believe that Riley was calling the plays, but I wanted to see if there was a way I could get to the bottom of things using scheme. Let's start with the running game. Here you can see last season's TCU and Clemson teams compared to the Tigers thus far this year. Based on this, I've got to give credit to Dabo. He found a guy with a proven track record who seems to have a very similar offense to himself. All the teams had a run-pass ratio of about 50%, and they all base out of inside zone. The passing game has been quite similar as well. All offenses are very screen-heavy, throwing a high percentage of passes behind the line of scrimmage, and generally prefer short completions over downfield shots. However, when you break the passing game down into routes, something interesting shows up. Riley is a product of the air raid coaching tree, having worked under Sonny Dykes and with obvious ties to his brother Lincoln Riley. There are a few routes that are synonymous with the air raid, and potentially the chief of them are crossing routes. The way PFF categorizes crossers, staple air raid plays like cross, shallow, and mesh should all have crossing routes, so it's no surprise that Riley's offense had a higher percentage than Clemson's spread-based offense of last season. And while it's not proof, I do find it interesting that this is one of the few places you see an obvious difference. To be fair though, I don't think it's worth putting that much stock into, because to be honest, it feels like they have the training wheels on for quarterback Cade Klubnik. Klubnik has all of the tools you could want in a quarterback. Enough athleticism to be dangerous, with a cannon for an arm. But he's still young. So far this season, they've tried to manufacture easy completions for him. In fact, they have the 5th lowest air yards per attempt in the country so far. They do this firstly by throwing a lot of hitches. Whether it's by isolating a corner on the backside of trips, or by integrating it into a larger concept, passes going to hitches make up a large proportion of their passing game. This is another example. Here Clemson is running a snag concept, which has this inside receiver running a corner, the back running to the flats, and this outside receiver's job is to find space in between. Usually the progression on this play is deep to short. Often teams pre-snap check the corner for a good matchup, then work snag to flat after the snap. Klubnik has almost always taken the easy completion early in the season, and while I'm not in the quarterback meetings, I have a feeling the Clemson coaches are okay with that at this stage in his development. This lack of explosiveness has led to criticism of the young signal caller, and maybe some of that is fair, but to be honest, he's not being helped much by his receiving core. They're currently 94th in drop rate, and they're not exactly making up for it in terms of yards after catch. Again, there might be nuance here since I think it's fair to point out some imperfect ball placement, but for the most part, these are balls that could be caught. The other mainstay of the passing game so far has been running back flares. Essentially, these are just easy completions that force smaller secondary players to tackle Clemson's 2 best offensive playmakers in space. This makes a lot of sense to me. Will Shipley and Phil Mafa are large-bodied running backs that punishes defenses through the full 60 minutes. The other main way they get the ball in the back's hands is through inside zone. This running play emphasizes double teams up front to allow them to get moving vertically right off the snap. One thing I really like that they do is work inside zone out of this 2-back set that gets both Mafa and Shipley on the field at the same time. The base inside zone out of this play is called split zone, where the line leaves the backside defender unblocked. This other back leaks to the flat, which pulls him outside and opens up a running lane for the main back. If that defender crashes towards the run, Klubnik can pull the ball with an extra blocker in front of him. Here Duke messes with the read a bit with a stunt, but Klubnik is able to use his plus athleticism to follow the lead back for a first down. Once they force defenses to commit to stopping the inside run, they can hit Shipley leaking out to the flats for an easy completion and decent gain. This short passing game and effective running game leads to an offense that's 5th in the country in successful play percentage, but has struggled a bit in pulling off explosives. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep up their production when they can't control both lines of scrimmage, like they could against Charleston Southern and FAU. There will be a point in time when Klubnik will probably have to throw the ball downfield. He has the tools to do it, but tools don't always guarantee success. While the offense is a bit conservative, the same can't be said about the defense. On a whole, Clemson's defense has been very aggressive this season, blitzing on over 40% of dropbacks. And while those blitzes haven't resulted in many sacks, they have been successful at getting pressure on quarterbacks and forcing them to reset their feet to throw downfield. Potentially one of the reasons for the lack of sacks is that they're missing a true edge rush threat. Xavier Thomas is one player to watch out for though. He has the talent, but his career has been riddled with injuries. If he can start putting it back together, he can be that much needed pass rush threat. What this line has been lacking in pass rushing though, they more than make up for the run game. They've been stout early on this season and racked up a good success rate against runs. They're helped out by one of the best linebacking duos in the country in preseason All-ACC selections Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. All things combined, this may be the best front seven in the conference, and they're helped further because they trust the guys behind them. Clemson ran with a young secondary last season and lived with the growing pains that naturally followed. However, they've come out stronger because of it. They're trusting their corners and man coverage a lot more this season, which allows them to be more aggressive towards the run. They've played cover zero with no true deep safety on almost 10% of snaps this year. This mucks up the box on runs and puts natural pressure on the quarterback. The natural response to this is designed screens that create quick outlets for the quarterback. But when your corners can make plays like this, it makes it hard to punish this aggressiveness. This Clemson team doesn't only play man coverage though. They've had an interesting spread over the first 3 games. They played a ton of man versus Duke, but seemed to base out of cover 4 versus Charleston Southern, and then turned around and played a lot of cover 3 against Florida Atlantic. That suggests to me a secondary they really trust to be able to pick up and play a lot of different schemes. If this works, it can allow the defense to adapt to anything an offense can throw at them. But the potential downside is that it opens the defense up to more mistakes. Duke in particular was able to take advantage of some of these mistakes. Here Clemson is likely banjoing the backside of this trips formation, which basically means the linebacker will take the first guy in and the corner will take the first man out between the receiver and running back. Here you can see the corner carries his man inside instead of peeling off onto the running back, which allows him to run free. That all being said, this is still an incredibly stout defense, and it's honestly one that's a bit of a nightmare to game plan for. They have answers at every position, and they do a lot of things schematically to give problems for the offense. This defense will likely be able to carry Clemson to a successful season this year, but I still have some reservations about the offense, specifically the passing game. If they figure that out, they can be one of the best teams in the country. If they don't, they may see more games like the Duke one in the near future. But to be honest, Dabo should probably get the benefit of the doubt. The man has done nothing but win in the past decade, and it's his conference until someone can take it from him. Thanks for watching. If you're a Clemson fan that stumbled onto this video, let me know how I did. Y'all are the experts on the team, and I'm sure that I missed something. If you're an FSU fan, please like and subscribe and meet me over on the Noles 247 to further the discussion. Thanks.